And it's just
Like wide open.
Thank you all. Hello. Hi. Thank you all so much for coming. We so appreciate the opportunity to meet all of you, and a special thanks to Barb and Russ for hosting us and for getting everyone together. It's especially wonderful to be meeting all of you because I was at the Children's Village when the Mullins came on their first tour, and so I was there helping them unload these boxes just full of all of these wonderful supplies that you all helped gather and donate, and just was so special and so unexpected. I don't think I could find my office chair for about a week, but it was so fantastic, and we are so very grateful. So to kick us off, we're going to watch a brief movie that will sort of show you a bit more about where the Mullins go and volunteer and have been, and sort of a bit more about our work and mission. And then India Howell, our founder, is going to come up and say a few words, and then we'll open up to some Q&A, and you guys can ask any questions you might have. But again, thank you all so much for being here and for taking the time to learn a bit more.
I'd just like to talk a little bit more about our rather unique model and why it works so effectively. See, traditionally, not-for-profits focus on one area of need, be it at-risk youth or education or healthcare or economic empowerment. And while all of those efforts are certainly worthy, poverty is a wily adversary because it doesn't attack from just one direction. It attacks from many sides. I grew up on boats, so I always come up with the metaphor of it's like owning an old wooden sailboat with lots of different leaks. Even if you plug the biggest leak, you may see some temporary change, but the boat will still sink eventually. And by the same token, we realized very early when we relieved the community of the burden of orphaned children that they did not have the resources to care for, that if we didn't take the approach of attacking from all sides, while our work would be very helpful for those children, it would not stem the tide of new orphans being created almost daily. And so our first stop was, as we said, education. Without education, it's pretty impossible to break the cycle that brought those kids to us, as well as the children of the community. And while our education efforts have worked remarkably well, it's not just about the buildings or adding teachers to the school or even providing food for the children while they're at school and warming and so forth. It's also about health care, because if a child, no matter how smart they are, gets sick, they can't get better with their brain. They need a doctor. The first time I took kids down for physicals when they first were coming to live with us, I was pretty shocked to realize that I kind of knew more about medicine from watching Marcus Welby, MD, as a kid than these doctors did. And so we made it an early priority to persuade Dr. Frank Artris and his wife, an American couple, to build a clinic and hospital in our area. The result has been astounding, not just for my children, but for the 10,000 people in our area we serve. We, as you saw, have a clinic, and we can provide basic first aid and triage, but for anything more serious, we provide free care at Fane Medical for the women, children, and elderly of our area. That also includes a ride in the car, because there are no medical facilities within walking distance from us. But we also couldn't just stop there. You may wonder, how does economic empowerment for adults relate to children? But it really does. When a family is struggling so much that they can barely put one meal a day on the table, they don't have the resources to buy the uniform and shoes for their child to go to school. They don't have the ability to think about the importance of education for that child because they can't get beyond thinking, how do we get enough food to feed ourselves and survive another day? And so today, with 700 families in our area now enjoying the added income from the microfinance program and their small businesses, they are thinking about education. And that is another reason that we have seen a 100% pass rate at our school year after year after year, because the parents can think about the importance of education, because they're not just thinking about how to get some food in their child's stomach. In the end, you see that each piece of the poverty puzzle, if you will, is connected, and one without the other can't save the day. What we have seen in our 15 years in our community is beyond remarkable. It's beyond the 100% pass rate for 7th grade. It's the dozens and dozens of kids from our area that have college and many university that are now out working in the greater community and all over Tanzania. And what's so amazing about Tanzanian culture, they don't forget their families. If just one kid in that family can make it through school, they always keep a piece of their earnings to help their younger brothers and sisters do the same. They look after their elderly parents. So when you help one succeed, you literally raise an entire family. And all of these pieces together have made Oldiani a sort of shining star in our district, because there is so much hope. People walk differently. The kids stand up straighter. The kids dream about something more than maybe getting a full-time job on the coffee plantation versus day labor. They are dreaming. And when dreams begin, anything's possible. So thank you all for the part that you have already played in helping this come about. And it is truly a land where every bit counts, where the smallest amount of support makes such a huge difference, whether it's a pair of shoes so that a child can go to school, or Band-Aids to provide first aid. Every little thing really does help to change lives in Tanzania. So thank you. Thanks for listening.
Where did so many of the kids learn to speak English so well?
They learn at home. One of our cornerstones is to ensure that all of our children are fluent in English. And that's not just because I'm an American. In Tanzania, the medium for teaching beginning in 8th grade is English. And so if you are not fluent in English, you're going to have a very difficult time passing through high school. The other thing is that employment is an issue in Tanzania. It's not easy to, even if you finish college or university, you don't walk out and find a plethora of jobs waiting for you. However, if you speak English, the most successful businesses there, the ones that are hungry for employees and Tanzanian employees, are those where English is the medium. Be it tourism, import-export, there's a huge agricultural export business. There are all kinds of things. And so the scholarship kids from our community that I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons that they have all been so successful finding jobs is the amount of English they learned by being in our program. Yes?
So how are students, or how are the children identified to become part of your family?
Very good question. Sadly, there are far more children out there than we have room for. But almost before I finished unpacking the last box when we moved to the area, word was out. Village, the village news broadcast, we don't need a newspaper. And everybody knew what my plan was. And as the paint was drying on the rooms, I was driving over to a village because the village chairman had heard what we were doing. A woman had died in childbirth, leaving behind an infant and an 18-month-old sister, and we went from there. And the hardest part is the saying no, because every time we went to fill a house of 12 kids, we would have requests for 50. And trying to make that decision is not an easy one. But we have no problem, I'm sorry to say, finding kids.
So are you maxed out at 97?
We are. And I do still know everybody's name, but I'm going to be 63 soon. We don't want to push. Happily, a lot of my kids are on the home stretch. They're in college or university, two different things there. And as over the next couple of years, we'll see more than 20 of those kids finishing their education, going out into the world, and to live on their own as adults. And at that point, we can start to talk about taking new kids in.
They stay there until they finish university.
Whatever level of education. Some go to vocational school, some go to college, which is like a junior college for AA degree, and then others go to university for a full bachelor's. But no matter what it is, they keep coming back so that I can yell at them to study harder.
But until they're fully fiscally.
I think Barb said this, I can't remember now, but don't you have students that come in from the village also, they don't live there? So
Yes.
you're also providing education for the other children?
Yes, we have a vibrant daycare program for children of staff, and we are up to about 25 kids in that right now. These are toddlers, preschool, and then once they start kindergarten, at the school we operate, kindergarten, first and second grade is half day in Tanzania, so they spend the other half of their day with us. And it's humbling to see how quickly they learn to speak English. Within 6 months, they're babbling away. It's within a week, they're saying, Allie, push swing, push swing. Yeah.
How'd you pick that up so quickly?
Yeah, they
No,
learn
any
it.
Swahili.
Read to me. I still remember
That's it. So they learn fast. Yes.
Do you raise some of the food that, or is it you purchase?
Farm, it's about 2.5 acres in size, and we grow vegetables for the children's village as well as the lunch program at the primary school that we run.
When did you start off?
We opened our doors in January of 2004, and at that moment, our youngest was 27 days old, and our oldest was 8. So, yes.
We tend to use the terms college and university synonymously.
Yes.
here, But you do not, and I
Right.
think other parts of the world do not. Would you like to explain the difference?
Sure. So we're on a British system, and so our high school ends 1 year earlier than it would in the United States. It goes through 11th grade, if you will. And then you can go straight to college, which is a 3-year program, and you come out with a diploma, or what we would call a junior college or AA diploma. Alternative, you can go to A-levels, which is a British thing, that would be grades 12 and 13, and then go on to university for 3 years instead of our 4, and that gives you a degree. So there's a difference between degree and diploma as well. And there's a third track, which is straight into vocational school. And for instance, one of my kids has just started a vocational program to learn massage and beauty care, which is manicure, pedicure. I may not let her move out ever. And I have 2 boys that have just completed a driver guide training vocational course. So there are, we really try to help the kids identify career areas that they're interested in that also match up with their academic ability. Okay.
Just to add on to that briefly, in a country where there's 80% roughly, we estimate, unemployment, having that post-secondary degree at any level, whether it be, learning a specific trade, college, university, is such a leg up, which is what
Right.
India and her team have really been focused on making sure that full, brighter future is realized.
Well, when they go to university, is there anything available for them nearby, or do they have to travel far away?
They do. Tanzania is a big country, and so I have kids that are way, on the western border in Mwanza on Lake Victoria, and kids way down south near the Zambia border in Mbeya, and then I have them a little closer in Arusha and Moshi, which is, 4 or 5 hours away. We have been trying to keep them closer in the closer cities, but there isn't quite as, large an array of choices in Tanzania in terms of college and university.
Yeah, so along the lines of the university school, are they able to stay with you while they're in school, if it's somewhere close by, or?
Nothing that close. We are in a very rural area. When I moved out there, it was the bush, because there was such a small population leading up and so forth. Now we've upgraded to rural. Anyway, there's nothing anywhere close to us.
Why that spot?
Divine interventions, actually. The government, the district government had heard about me and offered to donate 50 acres of land close to what was then a town, now is reaching city status of Karatu. And in those days, they didn't have a paved road between the city of Arusha and Karatu, so I had to move out there in order to oversee construction and so forth. The problem was I was 47 and I had one requirement. I needed a real toilet. I couldn't do a pet latrine anymore. And there was nothing available. And an acquaintance of mine said, well, we have a plantation out there. No one's lived in the house since the 80s, but if you want it, you could live there. And off we went. And out of Africa when I drove in. It was so perfect. And so way off the beaten track, yet so ideal for kids. The green, the lushness, and the villagers, knowing what my plans were, said, we don't want you to move, 40 minutes away. We want you to stay here, and we control the school property, which is 25 acres. We will give you 7 acres if you'll stay here. And I didn't even think twice. It's just such an ideal place to raise children. And I'm thrilled now that we have evolved as we have to also be working with a finite community. If you're in a city, it's much harder to really sort of work with children from cradle to grave and control the numbers of people that you're serving. And so this has been tremendous for us in terms of our impact, and also made it much easier for us to really measure our impact. It's been great. And my kids can't run away because there's nowhere to go.
What's important to me is that when the women are able to support their families, the children are directly affected by that. And so it's just, Arturo does such a nice job. I'm noticing this while he has gotten really good.
Yes,
Since
it's
we
a
were
little
there.
embarrassing for me.
Yes. But it's a great program, and moms that are a part of that program are very appreciative and are so creative and willing to share what they see and really important.
Well, I'm here with women. The fathers.
I'm very equal opportunity. I always, because I have boys too. Unlike many programs, we have always been open to men and women. No offense to the guys in the room, we find the women to be more reliable on paying back the loans. So the majority of our clients are women. However, we do have men, and they'll raise livestock. They'll take a loan to plant maize, and then when they sell the maize, they use the profit to pay back the loan and also do something for their family. Well,
Nice to have met with the men also. There's really wonderful community training going on from the Children's Village for the families from the local area. So I know in November when I was there, you had the prototype new silo for storing the maize, because if they don't store it properly in the bags, and when the bags get wet or get a hole in them, or the rodents get to them, then they lose their entire crop, basically.
Right, and then they face starvation
for the whole following season. And but the groundswell over just the 4 years that I've been going, the level of participation from the community is astounding. How many more families are understanding the benefits of what India's and Peter are doing. So.
And one nice thing One of the real challenges in a community like ours is when poverty is so dire and men feel that they are somehow wholly responsible for the fate of their family. When they come home night after night and there's no employment and there's no food and so forth, they're much more likely to run away in shame because they can't face it. And so by giving a microloan to a man so that he can be the breadwinner, he can fulfill what he feels is his responsibility, it actually really helps to hold families together. We all know that that's the ideal. Thank you guys for listening. I'm not running off. If anyone has any other questions, I will be here. Really appreciate it. And Barbara, thank you so much.
There's lots of food. Help yourself to stay mingle. One of the Kirsten was at the village when I first went to volunteer for the 3 weeks 2 years ago. So we met her then. She's also one of the board members. So.
I live in New York, I don't live here, so a lot of, Chris and I were on our way home from Episcopal, and I knew that Barbara and Russell were doing this, I told India and Natalie, I'm like, we're going to come, we can get a direct flight to Jackson.
There you go.
Not to Houston, but to Dallas. It was really wonderful having Russell and Barbara there with us there. And it was also really energizing to have, like, other volunteers our age. It doesn't always happen. I think it's more than you think it does, but Russell with his guitar, and it was just really terrific to spend the time with you guys. So.
How did you find children's ministry? How did you guys find the records?
Our daughter Jennifer and her husband went to, they travel a lot and they like to go on adventures. So they went to Tanzania in 2015 to go on safari to the Serengeti National Park, which is an amazing place. They came back, I didn't know where Tanzania was. They came back and they showed us their pictures of lions and elephants and leopards and just amazing animal photographs. So we started thinking about it. I thought, that's kind of neat. I wonder if we could do that. So Barbara and I, in 2016, decided, we started planning, we got hold of their tour guide, we started planning, and we decided to go to Tanzania that summer. Well, in May, it was May 1st, I believe, is when 60 Minutes did, well, they filmed it before, but 60 Minutes did a piece on Tanzania, and in particular on the Rift Valley Children's Village. It's a wonderful piece. Really is, and they sent a whole crew out. They interviewed India, Peter, and so we saw that on 60 Minutes, and I didn't put the two together. And then I got to thinking, I wonder where that place is. So we looked it up on the map, and we were flying into Mount Kilimanjaro, which is a major airport in northern Tanzania. So I looked it up on the map, and I thought, wow, that's kind of. We're going almost right by there when we go to when we go to Serengeti.
No, we went to everything's relative.
Well, I know, but we were eventually going to go to the Serengeti, and that's on the way up there. And so I got thinking about it. We both did, and we thought, I'd like to know more about this place because it is a wonderful piece that 60 Minutes did on your work there. So we contacted Allie, and I said, we'd like to come by and visit, and could you use some things? And so they
got us a lot of things.
Girls and boys' underwear and shoes and medical supplies and educational materials and all that. So anyway, with Janet's help and with the assistance of many of you here in this room, we gathered a bunch of things and took over there, and we were so impressed. We took everything over there and donated it.
Made it through custom.
Yeah. And dropped it off, and we were so impressed with what we saw that we decided we wanted to learn more about it, and so then we went back the next year. So.
And volunteered.
Our guide
Yeah.
didn't know where this was, and so it's really off. If you go to Karachi,
There are no street signs.
Had we known that Mama India is known all over Tanzania as Mama India, we would have just said Mama India's place, but we didn't know that, but our guide ended up finding it, and we were a little bit late, but ended up finding it.
Everything's late in Tanzania. No one knows.
And there's actually, we have some DVD copies of the 60 Minutes piece that they first found us in the back. If anyone wants to take it home, check it out.
Have y'all lived there or here and go back and forth?
I lived there. Allie used to live there for almost 2 years. I've been in Tanzania for over 20 years. And that is my home. My house is there. I don't have a home in the United States. I have this much of my cousin's guest room closet.
I think the magic of what India and Peter have done is that they live it. And I've been to quite a few of the programs when they're on the East Coast, when they come back over the years, because my parents were volunteers at, early on volunteers. That was their Florida in the winter, was going to India and going to see India and Peter for quite a few years at the front end. And a lot of times people will say, well, you're doing such an amazing job, why don't you have more? Why don't you start more of these? And India's answer is always because there's only one me. And
You've got to live there.
when you see it, you have a total understanding of why it has worked so well and why you couldn't really do it with sort of absentee management. And
Well, Peter and I are mom and dad for the kids, and they know it. And that's a big part of feeling safe and healing from the trauma they all experienced before they came to us. And it's forever.
Are there more places like you in Tanzania?
There are others that are starting up that are modeled after us, and I foresee more. It takes time.
Did you talk about Peter? How did you align with Peter?
Peter and when I first moved to Tanzania, I went over to manage a safari lodge and the safari company's camping division, and Peter was working in the camping department. And one day in low season, chatting, I was talking about my dream of starting a children's village, and I said, and what do you want to be when you grow up? And he wanted to start an NGO focused on conservation and very much focused on the village. He used the village he grew up in as a sort of model, and bringing about change in that village and raising the economy and so forth with a focus on environmentalism. But it still had a children component and had all of these other components. So we were really thinking very much along the same lines, which is quite remarkable for, he's so much younger than me. He was maybe 30 years old, less than 30. He was in his 20s, I was in my 40s, and he was Tanzanian, and I was from the East Coast of the United States, and yet here we are with the same dream. Go figure. But I'm aging him. He's catching up with me.
How can we?
Thank you, that's our favorite. There are a lot of ways to help, and really it's about narrowing down what would resonate most with you, whether it's sponsoring students or donating towards a capital project, or just helping us with our general fund, because we have to buy fuel to put in the car to go pick up the peanut butter for the kids and that kind of thing. There's some brochures and things in the back that I think may give you some guidelines of how you could help. Right now, our biggest focus financially is the secondary school. As much as we've done, there is still so much more to do there. And, our goal is to make sure that 100% of the kids that enroll in 8th grade are still there to graduate at the end of high school. And whether they pass or fail, if you complete Form 4, which is what they call it in Tanzania, it makes a world of difference in your choices and your job opportunities. So there's a tremendous amount to do there, from buying books all the way up to building buildings.
The children that go to OBI, which is secondary school, primary school is right next to the children's village, so we walk there every day. But the secondary students have to actually get in the car and go. It's what, about an hour?
5 miles.
5 miles, but it's not, like 5 miles on it, it's all, it's not.
No, it's anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the weather.
Yeah, rainy. But they are in the car and ready to go to school at 6:30 in the morning. And it's amazing, like we got to visit both the primary school and the secondary school when we were there. Just seeing that kind of before, you know, what India and the original folks have done, and now it's
Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening.
Yes, we'll be closing.
If I may just say, on behalf of everybody here, on behalf of Boomers, a huge thank you to Barb and Russ for opening our eyes and our hearts to do. We thank you very, very much. I mean, we pray for you, and we would like you to know that you are in our thoughts and prayers. We were very grateful for the opportunity to be able to contribute and for Barb and Customs to allow it to go through. But, you know, we may be in a position to consider being able to do more. And individually, there may be people who feel moved to actually go like in the way that Barb and Russ have. And actually go and visit and spend time there and genuinely hands-on help.
That would be great.
So we want to thank you for informing us further and reminding us of the tremendous work you do. Sorry it's such cold weather. But we do welcome you to St. Philip's. We thank you for being here. And thank you, Ross and Barb, for the delicious food and for the wonderful welcome. And we miss you guys. Love you.
Thank you.